in the trenches with Ryan Roxie.
Yeah, there's a photo that that appeared in a heavy metal book on the history of Bang Your Head, which is a famous German festival, and it just so happens that the photo that they use in the double gatefold of the opening of the book is not only a picture of Twisted Sister on stage, but I am the only guy turned around to the photographer. So you see the back of all the guys, but you see me. And then there's 50,000 people out there. So it looks like I'm photoshopped at Woodstock, right?
Early Photoshop.
So Eddie Ojeda made a joke. He said, man, if that was me, I'd put that on my wall and I'd have like a running tape in my living room that just goes, it is a very impressive looking picture. It looks so fake.
JJ, you do not have any room on your walls because they are covered with gold and platinum records, folks. And for those of you, some of us in our chat room that's a little bit from the younger generation, those friends are vinyl records, And in fact, they've made a comeback, but those ones you can't play. How many of those you got back there?
Well, I have a 37 total. And what happened was when I got married, I went from a man cave to a man room to a man drawer. So I have a guitar pick in a drawer that tells you I'm in Twisted Sister. So my wife, I had an ego room where I had everything up. When I used to have artists over, they whoa. And
I like the ego room.
I took it all down, and it's all in the storeroom. So this is there's about 12 here. And there's another 30, or there's another 27. And so if people wonder why that is, it's not just Twisted, which is a lot of them, but it's Seven Dust, it's Lordy, it's all the records I've appeared on as a guitar player, or producer or manager or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff. And also there are multiple records in multiple countries. And I'm grateful, I'm enormously grateful. However, to put this in perspective for those musicians out there who dream about a quote gold record or something like that. One day I was looking at the wall and I was saying to myself, wow, if you showed me that wall when I was 20 and said, look what you have, I would think, oh my God, I must be the most famous person on earth, a billionaire, and oh, what a great life. And in reality, I kind of came to the conclusion that the price I paid to get all of that was worth it, but it was tough. You pay a really high price to get to that level, and the rejections were horrible, and the ups and the downs were severe. And the only way I conquered them was that I don't do drugs and drink. So I consider the fact that I don't do that as the ability to keep coming back after all these rejections. I didn't have to hide myself. I didn't have to, run away and get wasted in the process to try to get over it. I confronted each one of those challenges straight. And I talk about that in my upcoming book, Twisted Business, which is kind of the subtitle is like, we've been turned down more times in a bedsheet in a whorehouse and come back more times than Freddy Krueger, So there's been an awful lot of the highs have been extremely great and the lows have been devastating. And you're in the entertainment business, and the lows crush people.
Right. But I think the thing that stands out for you and your band is perseverance as well, because the perseverance that you guys have endured. I mean, just doing the research on this podcast, and you formed Twisted Sister, in the early 70s, and you didn't really release anything until like the early 80s. So, you were grinding your teeth. You guys were in the trenches, so to speak. And it's not just because it's the name of the podcast, but you were definitely working your way through all the process, if you want to say that.
Well, most bands, though, have no idea the unique nature of the tri-state New York, New Jersey, Connecticut club era back in those days. So in those days, if you were good enough to play bars, you had a career, at least for a short term, that was stable and that would pay you consistently really good money. So we didn't starve by any means. I mean, the band was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as a bar band, which almost sounds impossible. We were working 52 weeks a year. In the early days, 6 nights a week. If you think about that for a second, if you think about that and you're a young band and you say to yourself, wow, man, we play a lot, we play twice a month. Well, the truth is in those days, you did 6 shows, you did 5 shows a night, 6 nights a week. So you did 30 shows, you did 30 performances a week. So if you just take a calculator, and you go 30 performances times 52, so that's 1,500 shows in 1 year.
Wow.
That's 1 year.
That's
So
work.
the first 2 years of the band, before D joined, we were at 3,000 shows.
Right.
Now, I mean, so I don't know, bands come up to me and they go, come and see my band. And I go, how many shows you played? And they go, I don't know, 100. And I said, well, when you get to 500, I'll come and see your band. Cause I'm thinking that you got to suck, like I'm sure we sucked, So they go, we'll never get to 500. And I say, well, there's a good chance I'm never going to come and see your band. You got to play a lot to get good. And we had the ability to play a lot. And so we had 10 years of that. So by the time the band was signed, we had 7,000 shows really under our belt. I think 7,500. So that's how come the band has the resiliency and the ability to pull off what we pull off, because we've done it so much.
And you can't teach experience. That's the one thing I tell people all the time is, you can pretend that you've played 100 shows and act like you've been on it, because that's all part of the game too, because you have to have that bravado when you're on stage and confidence, but there's no replacement for that experience.
No, because what that experience teaches you is that how to deal with every possible scenario that could possibly happen. And every possible scenario that could possibly happen happened to us, including the fact that a rival club owner blew up one of our trucks in the middle of a show one night.
What?
So, yeah,
what year was this?
In 70, we told this guy, the guy was a real racist. He made some very racist comments. And I decided after he's made those comments, I told my agent, I never want to play this room again. So he told the guy that we were going to play the room. About a month after that, we were playing a show in Long Island on a Saturday night, and there was about 2,000 people in this room. And I was singing Sweet Jane, and someone screamed out, "Your truck is on fire!" And they opened up the back door of the club, and our brand new 24-foot truck was in 50-foot flames, and it was in the middle of winter. And I said to my crew, is there gasoline in the gas tanks? And they said, yeah, we filled it up. And I went, oh my God, if this thing blows up, this wall's going to come down and kill everybody in the room. So I said to everybody in the club, I said, please exit out the front door now, right now, just get out now. And the club emptied out, and I walked out into the parking lot, and it's in the middle of winter, but I'm completely stunned because our brand new 24-foot truck is in 50-foot flames. In fact, not only was our truck set on fire, but another band's truck was parked next to ours that had broken down the night before, and their truck was melting in the flames. Okay.
Collateral damage.
I'm standing in the parking lot. I'm wearing hot pants and 6-inch heels, pretty much in shock. The fire department's there, and they're telling everyone to clear out. I said, I'm not leaving, man. My fucking truck is on fire, And a fan comes up to me and says, hey, man, are you going to finish the song? Sweet Jane. I looked at him. I said, hey, asshole.
What would have been really cool is if you would have gone from Sweet Jane to say, light my fire. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Or I said, do you see what's my truck is on fire? So we paid the price of not. And so so we didn't know what happened. We just knew our truck was blown up. It turned out about a year after that, the ex-wife of one of the sons of the club owner came up to me at another club and said, by the way, last year when your truck was destroyed at Speaks, yeah, she says that was done because so-and-so told his son to blow up your truck as payback for not playing his room. So we had that. I had a mob hit called on me. Had my knees broken. We played to, most of the club owners back then were Italian guys. Most of them purportedly were involved. I mean, nobody personally invited me to a killing or a robbery or anything, but to put the perspective of our scene back then, I'm sure you've seen Goodfellas, right?
Oh yeah, 100
So
times or so.
Henry Hill, he worked at one of the bars that we
Wow.
played in.
Okay.
And I borrowed money on a fairly consistent basis from several of these club owners, and none of them ever gave me a problem. We played the shows we were supposed to play and paid them back, and I never paid vig. I never got threatened. But a recording studio owner warned me that a deal was made that I wasn't aware of with a producer that I did not know. He made a side deal, and basically we owed the studio $26,000, and if I didn't pay the money, my legs would be broken. So at that point, we made a phone call to Tommy the Shoe, Freddie the Chair, Billy the Horse, these guys we know because we played the bars in Long Island. And
Good thing they didn't take your thumbs, JJ. They took my thumbs.
Yeah. And we made a call, and there was a sit down, and we came to a copacetic agreement that if we paid them $10,000, they call off the hit. So, okay. So here's the point is, I didn't join Twisted Sister to do any of this. I joined just to be a musician and a guitar player. And then over time, things just happen. And
this is all before you guys have this mega success.
Oh,
so
way before.
I mean, so you're dealing with the real mafia before you had to deal with the record company mafia, which I'm sure we'll talk about just to get.
Well, the thing is that there's but let's go back even further. Okay. I was a drug dealer for 5 years before Twisted ever was in
Did not know that
the world. Yeah, I had a drug addict at the same time, and I was a street guy, and I dealt drugs, and I was a big pot dealer.
But you never did drugs.
Oh, I did. I was a drug addict, man.
Okay, so what happened? Just said at the beginning, okay, there has to be some sort of
epiphany. At about the same in 1970 in April of 72, after a 5-year run of dealing and doing every amount of drug you could imagine. And by the way, I was a hippie. So just think about the 60s. Think about what that meant. Think about living in New York in the 60s, thinking about the amount of drugs that were in New York in the 60s, thinking about the whole hippie scene, think about the political climate. Yeah. I was involved with all of it. So
you were immersed.
I mean, Toby Mamus.
Oh yeah. We know Toby.
Toby's brother and I sued the Board of Education together. Okay.
So
for political reasons. Toby and I go back to 1968.
You were all over the spectrum in the 60s scene, pretty much.
So what happened was, after a 5-year run of dealing and doing, I woke up one morning and realized that if I continued on that path, I was going to die or be murdered, because I had already been almost murdered 5 times. Twice, guns put to my head, knives put to my throat, robbed in elevators in Harlem. Bad shit,
So wearing makeup in Twisted Sister was no big deal at
all. No. As my mother said, you went from a drug dealer to a transvestite. Gee, what a great career choice. So what happened was I made a decision Easter Sunday 1972 to end everything, to end my drug use and everything. So I stopped on a dime on Easter Sunday 1972. And I woke up that Monday and I went, okay, that's it. Now what do I do? Now what do I do? And I was stumbling around for the next 2 or 3 months, and I wound up joining an Allman Brothers cover band in the summer of 72. And we lived in a hippie commune in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. We did one show. The band broke up. I came home in September and got a subscription to Fusion magazine. And on the cover of Fusion was David Bowie. And the story was about Ziggy Stardust. And I was like, whoa, who is this guy? What? I mean, I was an uber hippie. So I didn't know from, Glam, but oh my God, this looks amazing. So I decided this is what I want to do. I want a glitter band. But at the same time, the New York Dolls were playing at the Mercer Arts Center, and my friends were very close to the Dolls, and they said, why don't you come down and see the Dolls? And I was obsessed with Bowie and Lou Reed and Mott the Hoople. They all kind of came together at the same time, which is September 72, because Bowie not only had Space Oddity, not only had Ziggy Stardust, but he also produced Transformer by Lou Reed, and he also wrote all the young dudes. So I looked at Bowie as like, oh my God,
Yeah,
God.
a little bit of inspiration there.
Totally. You know, where the Beatles, I say the Beatles were my Saturn V rocket that lifted me off, and Bowie was my retro rocket that took me to the stars. So Bowie, so I go to see the Dolls, and every week for like a month. And you know, and their image was amazing. I just didn't like the band. I just didn't think they played well. I didn't even understand how you could suck that badly playing and look that good. And I knew Johnny Thunders because Johnny was like a client, you know, in Central Park.
He was a client.
Among other things. I mean, I knew these guys, you know, I knew these guys, and the girls who took me to the show lived with Bill and Syl in England the summer before that. So I knew the scene, but I just didn't understand the where they were coming from, because I was a Fillmore East hippie. And for those of you who don't understand what that means that from 1968 to 1971, if you lived in New York City, you could go see Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin, Leon Russell,
You name it.
Yeah, every weekend for $3. For $3. You could see them all. In fact, you saw them 4 times a week, 4 times a weekend for $12 if you wanted to. You saw the Who for a whole week, $3 a night. You saw Crosby, Stills and Nash for a whole week, $3 a night. If you couldn't afford the 3, you went to Central Park and saw them at the Schaefer Festival in the park. So with all of this greatness and the assimilation of going to see Jimi Hendrix on a nightly basis, or seeing Jeff Beck on a nightly basis, or seeing Led Zeppelin on a nightly basis.
Are those some of your ticket stubs right there?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, you did your research.
You
So you go to these shows, right? And you come home at 4:00 in the morning, having just, you know, like I stumbled into Zeppelin's first show, opening for Iron Butterfly, front row seat. Okay. I bought a front row ticket. I had 5 pounds of weed on me. I figured, how bad could In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida be? I'll smoke my way through In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, right? Fuck that.
It could be long.
And it didn't matter. I had that much weed. I mean, I smoked so much weed. I smoked so much weed about a month after Woodstock, 10 years after I headlined the Fillmore. I love telling this story. The Kinks were opening. So I had a front row seat. So I'm sitting there, and I had tons of weed. I'm smoking like crazy. And I fall asleep during the Kinks show, I guess. And I wake up, I hear, "Good night." And I looked at the guy next to me. I said, "Oh, it was 10 years after coming on." He said, "Dude, you slept through the whole thing. You slept through 10 years after."
You almost slept for 10 years.
I slept through 10 years after. I going home, I slept. He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Why didn't you wake me up?" He said, "I don't know who the fuck you are. Why am I going to wake you up? You could kill me." So anyway, the point being is, with all this greatness, I didn't understand the retro nature of what the Dolls were doing. I didn't think it was like hip and cool. I just thought they kind of sucked. And that's, it's blasphemy. Oh, the Dolls are a brilliant band. You know, listen, they look great, and they were definitely inspirational, without a doubt. They were inspirational. I would look at them and go, "Wow, look at that." But I wanted a band that could play, and that was the inspiration too.
But maybe that's why glam rock left a little bit of a taste in your mouth, a sour taste in your mouth. Because I've heard, and I'm not certain, but the term, when people would, I guess, put the genre of glam metal to Twisted, you were like, no, or, you know, maybe it was D that said that, but I know that the band didn't really take that kindly to glam metal, because in my opinion, you guys are straight up rock and roll.
We were a straight up rock band. What we were was, we were a bar band from the 70s that made it in the 80s. And we looked like we looked because we wanted to shock people. But we had there was no, were we androgynous? No. Were we bisexual? No. We were just a hard ass bar band. And bar bands make the greatest band. I mean, look, whatever you want to say about Nugent's politics, he's great because he played in bars. You know, he learned how to do it. Jay Giles learned how to do it. Springsteen learned how to do it. When you can learn in bars how to do it, but you ask the Rolling Stones and AC/DC, and they all played in clubs for years. They killed themselves, and
You're forgetting Ted Nugent also looks really amazing in a loincloth at one point in his life as well.
Well, I have to tell you, I saw Nugent open for Aerosmith in 1975 at Madison Square Garden. I had never seen Nugent, and he was incredible. And
$3 or more than $3 at that point, maybe $7.
Maybe $5 at the Garden. Maybe
I love it.
maybe $5, but he was incredible, and Aerosmith couldn't play their way out of a paper bag. They were so fucked up. Now Aerosmith, to their credit, cleaned up their act and became a great band. So I've seen Aerosmith after that, and they were great. So let's not get people going, hey man, you said Aerosmith. No, they went through a bad period.
Right.
Okay. And they'll tell you they went through a bad period. Right. What most people don't know is how bad Zeppelin got. People think Zeppelin. Okay, let me set the record straight. In 1969 to 1972, Led Zeppelin was one of the greatest live bands you would ever want to see. But by 1975, whatever started to have its effect on Jimmy, and Robert's voice was starting to go. And by 1977, they were fairly unlistenable. In fact, by 1977, on their last tour, we couldn't give tickets away at our show to see Zeppelin. And so let me explain how that works. We had a fan who was a ticket hustler, and he would give us tickets at our shows. We would have a contest, a drinking contest or something, and we'd give some tickets away to an event. So one night he said, I got 4 Zepp tickets and you guys can give them away. And nobody wanted to go see Zepp. Why? Because the bar bands at the time were playing Zeppelin better than Led Zeppelin was playing Zeppelin. So you could see Zebra or Rat Race Choir, and they were all doing Zepp better than Zepp. So we couldn't give tickets away to see Zeppelin. So I went. Because I figured, well, I've seen him in 69. I saw him in 70. I saw him in 72. I saw him in 75. I want to see him in 77. They were awful. And I sat there for 3 hours watching John Bonham play drums because he's one of the greatest drummers in the world. And
No doubt.
And so you could watch John. But, this was the world that
I'm Ryan Roxie, and I've taken all my years of experience of playing guitar, and I want to pass the torch of rock and roll on to you. Check out the System 12 Guitar Method.